Blood dripped onto the marble floor. His blood from knuckles split open pounding on a nursery door, while his infant daughter screamed herself blue on the other side. Jeon Tae-sung had killed 17 men with those same hands, built a criminal empire that made presidents nervous, and survived 3 assassination attempts before breakfast. But he couldn't survive this. He couldn't survive the sound of his daughter dying while he stood helpless, watching his entire world collapse into the cry of a 4-month-old who refused every formula, rejected every bottle, and was slowly starving to death despite the army of specialists surrounding her. The most feared man in Seoul was about to lose the only pure thing he'd ever created. Until a woman with dark skin and ancient eyes walked into his fortress, pressed his daughter to her chest, and whispered, "She doesn't need your money. She needs a mother." What Tae-sung didn't know, saving his daughter would destroy him completely, remake him entirely, and cost him everything he'd ever been. But he'd pay for it. God help him, he'd pay it all. Seoul's skyline stretched endlessly beyond the bulletproof glass, each light a soul under Jeon Tae-sung's control. His penthouse fortress occupied the top 3 floors of the Hanam Tower, 4,700 square feet of polished marble, contemporary art worth more than small countries, and security systems that could detect a heartbeat from 3 floors down. Everything was precision, everything was controlled. Except for the screaming. It started 7 hours ago and hadn't stopped. Not for breath, not for mercy, just a relentless soul-destroying sound that was systematically dismantling the most dangerous man in South Korea. Tae-sung paced the nursery, a room that cost more than most homes, equipped with every technological advancement money could buy. Smart cribs that monitored breathing patterns, temperature-controlled bassinets, a medical-grade air filtration system. All of it useless against the tiny, red-faced infant in his arms who screamed like she was being murdered. His daughter, Mina, 4 months old, dying despite everything he could provide. His reflection in the window was unrecognizable. The immaculate Ermenegildo Xenia suit was destroyed, wrinkled, stained, reeking of desperation and baby vomit. His usually swept-back hair hung in damp strands across his forehead. The shadows carved beneath his razor-sharp cheekbones made him look less like a kingpin and more like a ghost. But it was his eyes that told the real story. The eyes that had stared down politicians and rival bosses without flinching were now red-rimmed, wild, terrified. "Boss?" Haiwon appeared in the doorway, his operations manager, her voice tight. "The German specialist is on the phone. She says, I don't care what she says." Tae-sung's voice came out raw, destroyed. "They all say the same thing. Healthy baby. No medical explanation. Try this formula. Adjust the temperature. Change the bottle. She's not healthy. She's dying in my arms and nobody can tell me why." Hwon flinched. In 5 years of working for Tae-sung, she'd never heard him yell. Never seen him crack. "Sir, perhaps... get out." His voice dropped to something more terrifying than the yell, something hollow. "Just get out." She fled. Tae-sung stumbled to the window, Mina's screams drilling into his skull like bullets. Below, the city he controlled through calculated violence and strategic brutality glittered with indifferent beauty. His empire. Built on the ashes of the previous kingpin, he'd eliminated with his bare hands. Consolidated through 7 rival territories, each one requiring blood and brilliance to absorb. Worth billions in legitimate fronts, and dark money flowing through channels so complex even the prosecutors who'd been hunting him for a decade couldn't trace them. All of it is meaningless, because his daughter was starving to death and he couldn't stop it. Mina's mother, Somin, daughter of a rival syndicate, had died 18 hours after delivery. Complications, they'd said, but Tae-sung knew better. She'd given up. Their marriage had been tactical, emotionless, designed to merge territories, not hearts. She'd wanted power. He'd wanted consolidation. Neither had wanted a child. Her last words whispered through blood-flecked lips, "She'll destroy you like you destroyed me." And she was right. This tiny infant, this 8-pound bundle of fury and need, was accomplishing what bullets and betrayals never could. She was breaking him. "What do you want from me?" Taesung whispered hoarsely, his forehead pressed against the cold glass. "Tell me." "I'll give you anything, everything. Just stop, please, just stop." Mina's only answer was another soul-shattering wail. 5 nannies had quit in 3 weeks. The paediatrician had run every test imaginable: blood work, scans, genetic screening. Everything came back normal. Healthy baby. Some infants are just fussy. Fussy. The word was obscene. This wasn't fussy. This was agony, expressed by the only means available to someone who couldn't speak. His phone buzzed. Text from Kwon Dae-hyun, his second-in-command, syndicate meeting in 90 minutes. "The Yakuza situation is critical. Your presence is mandatory." Taesung stared at the phone, then at his daughter's scrunched red face, her tiny fists trembling with effort as she screamed. For the first time in his career, he made an irrational decision. He grabbed his keys. The River Women's Sanctuary existed in Seoul's blind spots, a 3-story building in Yeongdeungpo that housed women fleeing violence. Funded through anonymous donations, routed through so many shell corporations that even forensic accountants couldn't trace them back to sources. Taesung knew about it only because his intelligence network documented everything in his territory. Every building, every resident, every heartbeat, including this place he'd never paid attention to. Until tonight, when desperation made him remember something Hyun had mentioned months ago. "There's a Nigerian nurse there. Former midwife. The woman says she has magic hands with difficult babies." Magic. Taesung didn't believe in magic, but he was willing to try anything. He parked his Mercedes in the shadows opposite the sanctuary, engine running. Mina was still screaming in her custom car seat, the sound reverberating in the luxury vehicle's insulated interior like they were trapped in hell together. Through the sanctuary's illuminated windows, he observed women moving, survivors carrying the weight of their trauma like invisible armor. Then he saw her. She stood in the communal kitchen, visible through the window, stirring something in an enormous pot. She was statuesque, easily 6 feet tall with dark skin that seemed to glow in the warm light. Her hair was wrapped in vibrant purple fabric, and her movements had a rhythm that was almost hypnotic. She turned, laughing at something someone said, and Taesung's breath stopped. She was stunning in a way that had nothing to do with conventional beauty and everything to do with presence, power. Like she could hold the world together with just her hands and her will. Mina's screaming intensified, and something in Taesung snapped. He grabbed his daughter and strode across the street. The door didn't just open, it exploded inward as Taesung kicked it with too much force, too much desperation. Every woman inside froze. Taesung stood in the doorway, 6'3" of lethal elegance and barely contained violence, holding a screaming infant, his expensive clothes and cold eyes completely jarring in this space designed for safety. "I need help." His voice cut through Mina's cries like a blade. "Now!" The women scattered like birds, terrified. All except her. She stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron with deliberate calm. Her dark eyes assessed him with zero fear. Only professional evaluation that somehow saw through everything he was to what he needed. "This is a women's sanctuary," she said. Her Korean was accented, musical, lilting with tones that spoke of a different world. Nigerian, his brain supplied. Men are prohibited. "My daughter won't stop crying." The words came out raw, broken. "I've tried everything. I'll pay anything, everything, name any price. Money doesn't fix crying babies." She moved closer and he caught her scent, something warm, spiced, utterly foreign to his sterile world. Her gaze shifted to Mina. "How long?" 7 hours, sometimes 12, sometimes she cries until she vomits blood. The woman's expression shifted, something between compassion and professional concern. She reached out, and before Tai-sung could object, placed her hand on Mina's back. The crying didn't stop, but it changed. Lessen. Shifted to a different pitch that somehow hurt less. "She's not sick," the woman said quietly, her hand moving in slow, firm circles. "She's starving. She refuses every formula, every temperature, every bottle. Not a formula." Her eyes met his, challenging, certain. Breast milk, direct nursing, skin-to-skin contact with someone whose body remembers how to comfort. Tai-sung's jaw tightened. Her mother died during delivery. "I know. I can see it in the baby's eyes. She's grieving something she never had." The woman's voice was gentle but firm. "Donor milk through a bottle isn't enough. She needs a heartbeat. Warmth. The sensation of safety that only comes from being held against a nursing mother's chest. I hold her constantly." "Do you?" Those eyes pinned him and saw everything. "Or do you carry her while your mind calculates territory disputes and succession plans?" Babies feel that distance. They feel everything. Your fear, your rage, your absence, even when you're physically present. No one spoke to Tai-sung this way. No one dared. His hand twitched toward the gun in his shoulder holster. Pure instinct. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "You can shoot me," she said calmly, "but it won't make your daughter stop crying." For 5 seconds they stared at each other, empire versus compassion, violence versus wisdom. Then Tai-sung did something he hadn't done in 15 years. He backed down. "What do you need from me?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "Leave your weapon at the door, follow me, and be willing to trust someone for the first time in your life." Welcome back, fam. If you're still here after that opening, you already know this story is different. This isn't just another romance. This is a collision between two worlds that should never meet, between a man built on violence and a woman forged in survival. I'm telling you right now, you're not ready for what comes next. So hit that like button because this algorithm needs to know you're serious, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and smash that subscribe button because this channel is about to become your obsession. Let's go! The private room was minimal, a rocking chair, a changing table, a soft mat on the floor. She closed the door, muffling the sounds of the sanctuary, creating a pocket of quiet that felt impossible. "Sit," she commanded. Tai-sung sat, still holding Mina, and realized he didn't even know this woman's name. "I'm Amara," she said as if reading his mind. "Amara Okafor. And before you ask, yes, I know who you are. Everyone in this sanctuary knows John Tai-sung controls this territory. We stay invisible because visibility means death. You don't hurt women and children directly," she corrected. "But your empire is built on exploitation, and exploitation always rolls downhill to the most vulnerable. So don't pretend your hands are clean just because you don't pull the trigger yourself." The brutal honesty should have angered him. Instead, it was almost refreshing. "Can you help my daughter or not?" "Yes, but you need to understand what I'm offering." Amara sat in the rocking chair, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. "I have a 7-month-old daughter sleeping in the next room. I'm still nursing. What your daughter needs, what will save her life, is direct nursing. Skin-to-skin contact with me. The sensation of being held by someone whose body is biologically designed to comfort infants. You want to breastfeed my daughter. I want to save her life." There's a difference. Tai-sung looked down at Mina's red, anguished face, at her tiny fists, at the exhaustion in her eyes that no 4-month-old should experience. "Do it," he said. Amara took Mina with practiced, confident hands. She adjusted her clothing with zero self-consciousness, and within seconds, Mina was latched and feeding. The silence was instantaneous, devastating. Mina's screams didn't taper off. They stopped, replaced by small, satisfied sounds as she fed desperately, hungrily, like she'd been waiting her entire life for this moment. Tai-sung stared, unable to look away. His daughter, His screaming, inconsolable daughter was peaceful. Completely, utterly peaceful. Amara began to hum, something low and melodic in a language Tai-sung didn't recognize. Her hand curved around Mina's small body with infinite gentleness, and she rocked slowly, creating a rhythm that felt ancient, primal, right. How? The word came out broken. How did you do that? I didn't do anything extraordinary, Amara said softly. I just gave her what she was asking for. Babies don't have complex needs. They need to feel safe, fed, loved. Your daughter was screaming because she'd been given everything except what she actually needed. Human connection. Tai-sung lowered himself to the floor, his expensive suit forgotten, and watched his daughter's face transform from agony to contentment. For the first time in 4 months, he felt the crushing weight on his chest ease. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, words he'd never spoken to anyone. I know how to run an empire. I know how to eliminate threats, manipulate markets, and read people's weaknesses. I don't know how to be a father. Amara looked at him, and her eyes held something that looked like understanding. Being a father isn't about what you know, it's about who you're willing to become. And that, she glanced down at Mina, now falling asleep with milk-drunk contentment, is the real question. Can you become someone different? Or are you so attached to being Jeon Tai-sung, the kingpin, that you'll sacrifice your daughter's well-being to maintain your reputation? The question landed like a physical blow. I need you, Tai-sung said quietly. Excuse me? To help her. To teach me. To... He stopped, struggling with words that felt foreign in his mouth. She'll die without you. I've tried everything else. You're the only thing that's worked. Mr. John, name your price. Anything. I'm not for sale. Then what do you want? Amara was quiet for a long moment, looking down at the sleeping baby in her arms. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of years of struggle. I want my daughter to grow up without fear. I want to finish my nursing degree. I want to stop hiding from immigration enforcement because my asylum case has been rejected 3 times, and I'm 1 raid away from deportation. I want... She met his eyes. What you can't actually buy with money. I want a future. Taesong's mind, that ruthless calculating machine, immediately began mapping solutions. Asylum cases, immigration lawyers, university enrollment, all easily accomplished with his resources and connections. I can give you all of that, he said, legally, permanently. But I need you to help me save my daughter. I need you to live in your fortress, nurse your daughter, become part of your dangerous world. Amara shook her head. You're asking me to trade one kind of danger for another. I'm asking you to save an innocent child's life. And what happens to my innocent child? My daughter who depends on me? You want me to bring her into your world of violence and threats? I'll protect you both, with everything I have. Your protection is also your greatest danger, Amara said quietly. The people who want to hurt you will hurt anyone you care about. That's how your world works. Then I'll change how my world works. The words surprised them both. Amara studied his face. This cold, dangerous man now stripped to his most vulnerable core. You can't mean that. I mean it, Taesong said, and realized it was true. Look at me. I'm sitting on the floor of a women's sanctuary begging a stranger to save my daughter. I'm already changing. The question is whether you're brave enough to help me keep changing. Silence stretched between them, filled only with Mina's soft breathing. 1 month, Amara finally said. Trial period. You provide legal documentation for my asylum case. Real documentation, not forged. You ensure my daughter's safety. You fund my university enrollment. And I help stabilize Mina. After 1 month, we reassessed. Those are my terms. Agreed. I'm not finished. Her voice hardened. You don't touch me. You don't command me. You don't treat me like property. I'm a professional providing medical care, not a concubine or a possession. Clear? Crystal clear. And if I determine at any point that my daughter is in danger, I'll have my private jet fueled and ready to take you anywhere in the world with new identities and enough money to never worry again, Taesung finished. I'm not a good man, Amara. But I keep my promises. She looked down at Mina, then at her own sleeping daughter visible through the doorway, then back at this man who'd kicked down her door and somehow, impossibly, made her believe he might actually change. God help me, she whispered. I'm going to regret this. Probably, Taesung agreed. But my daughter won't. Neither of them knew that within 3 weeks, everything would explode in ways they couldn't imagine. Neither of them knew that Taesung's syndicate was already plotting against him. And neither of them knew that Amara Okafor, Nigerian refugee and nursing student, was about to become the most dangerous woman in Seoul. Not because of violence, but because she'd accomplish what bullets and betrayals never could. She'd make John Taesung feel something other than rage. The penthouse fortress felt different with Amara in it. Taesung stood in his home office 3 days after their arrangement began, watching through the security monitors as she moved through the east wing with her daughter Nia strapped to her chest. She'd insisted on relocating Mina's nursery adjacent to her rooms, had rearranged furniture without asking permission, had essentially colonized an entire section of his fortress and made it hers. And somehow, impossibly, he didn't mind. Mina hadn't screamed in 72 hours. 72 miraculous hours of peace punctuated only by normal baby sounds, coos, giggles, the occasional fussy cry that Amara handled with effortless competence. His daughter was thriving, gaining weight, developing normally, smiling, because of the woman currently singing in Igbo while preparing something that smelled incredible in his previously unused kitchen. "Boss, we have a problem." Haiwon appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. "The Syndicate Council is demanding a meeting, tonight. They're calling it a vote of no confidence." Taesung's jaw tightened. "Let me guess. Kwon Daeyeon is leading the charge. Him, Yoon Seung-ho, and Choi Min-jae. They're saying you've become unreliable, that the custody hearing has made you weak. That hiring a..." She paused, choosing words carefully. "Foreign woman with no background checks or security clearance shows compromised judgment." They researched Amara extensively. They know about her rejected asylum cases, her daughter's father abandoning her, and her illegal immigration status. They're calling her a liability, something cold and lethal settled in Taesung's chest. Are they threatening her? Not explicitly. But Seung-ho made comments about how vulnerable she is, how easily problems can disappear if necessary. Taesung was moving before Haiwon finished speaking. He strode through the penthouse, his footsteps silent on the marble, until he reached the kitchen. Amara stood at the stove, both babies in carriers, Mina on her chest, Nia on her back. She was cooking something complex, multi-layered, her movements economical and practiced. She'd transformed his sterile, unused kitchen into something that felt lived in, warm. She looked up as he entered, and her eyes immediately narrowed. "What happened?" "How did you..." "You're moving differently, tighter, like you're preparing for violence." She turned down the heat on the stove. What happened? Taesung had built his empire on deception, on hiding his thoughts behind impenetrable masks. But this woman read him like he was transparent. "There's a custody hearing in 4 days. My late wife's family is filing to take Mina. They're claiming I'm an unfit father, that my lifestyle makes her unsafe." "Are they wrong?" The question was like a knife, quick, surgical, precise. "No," Taesung admitted. "They're not wrong. My world is dangerous. But they don't want Mina because they love her. They want her as leverage. She's a pawn in a territorial dispute. And your people? Your syndicate? They see you as a liability, a weakness I can't afford." Amara's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Not fear, but calculation. "Are they planning to eliminate me?" "Not if they want to keep breathing." "That's not an answer." Taesung stepped closer, close enough to smell the spices she was cooking. the baby powder, the unique scent that was just her. I won't let anyone hurt you or your daughter. I don't care if it costs me the entire syndicate. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly for the first time in years. His voice was quiet but absolute. Amara, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. When Mina was born and her mother died, I felt nothing. Relief that the marriage was over. Irritation that I now had a responsibility I didn't want. No love, no connection, nothing. Amara's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't interrupt. Then Mina started screaming and wouldn't stop, and I realized she was going to die because I couldn't figure out how to save her. And for the first time since I was 7 years old, I felt something other than rage. He paused, the words difficult. I felt fear. Real fear. Not fear of death or losing power. Fear of failing someone who depended on me completely. Taizong. Then you walked into that sanctuary and fixed everything I'd broken. And I realized my daughter wasn't the only thing you saved. His hand lifted, almost touching her face before he stopped himself, remembering her boundaries. You saved me too. So no, I'm not letting anyone hurt you, even if it means burning down everything I've built. Amara stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she turned back to the stove, stirring with deliberate focus. The custody hearing, she said quietly. You need me to testify. Yes. As what? Your employee? Your daughter's wet nurse? They'll tear me apart on the stand. Undocumented immigrant, no legal standing, working for a known criminal. I'm everything they need to prove you're unfit. Then we change your legal standing. She turned to face him fully. What are you suggesting? Marry me. The wooden spoon clattered against the pot. Excuse me? Marriage grants immediate legal residency. It provides legitimacy to your presence in Mina's life. It makes you protected, untouchable. It solves everything. It solves your problems, Amara corrected, her voice sharp. It makes me a legal shield, property with documentation. No, it makes you family. I don't love you. I don't love you either, Taisong said bluntly. But I respect you more than anyone I've ever met. I trust you with my daughter's life. And in my world, that's infinitely more valuable than love. This is insane. Yes, I barely know you. Yes, you're a criminal. Very much yes. And you're asking me to legally bind myself to you based on 3 days of knowing each other. I'm asking you to save my daughter by making yourself legally untouchable. Everything else is negotiable. Amara turned away, her hands gripping the counter. Both babies slept peacefully against her, oblivious to the conversation reshaping their lives. If I say yes, she finally said, her voice carefully controlled, it's a real marriage. Legal, binding with real consequences if you violate the terms. You want me to protect your daughter? Then you respect me as an equal partner, not a convenient solution. Agreed. And Nia is legally adopted as your daughter. Same rights, same inheritance, same protection as Mina. I won't create a hierarchy between them. Agreed. And, she turned to face him, her eyes blazing, you don't touch me without permission. This isn't a romantic arrangement, it's strategic. Clear. Something in Taesung's chest tightened at that, but he nodded. Crystal clear. 3 months trial. If it doesn't work, we divorce, and you maintain my legal status and Nia's adoption regardless of what happens between us. 3 months, he agreed. Amara extended her hand and Taesung took it. Her grip was firm, her skin warm, and the contact sent electricity up his arm. God help us both, she whispered. God abandoned me a long time ago, Taesung replied, but maybe he still listens to you. The wedding was clinical. A judge, 2 witnesses, legal documents that made Amara Okafor into Amara John with strokes of a pen. But what happened in the courtroom 2 days later was anything but clinical. The custody hearing was packed, lawyers in expensive suits, Somin's family dripping with jewelry and performative grief, reporters who'd somehow gotten wind of the hearing despite the closed proceedings. And in the middle of it all, Taesung and Amara, presenting a united front that looked suspiciously like the real thing. The Lim family's lawyer, a shark in Prada, attacked immediately. Mr. Jeon, you expect this court to believe that your infant daughter, who lost her mother at birth, is thriving under your care despite your documented involvement in organized crime. Alleged involvement, Taesong's lawyer corrected smoothly. My client has never been convicted. Because witnesses disappear, the Lim lawyer sneered. But let's talk about something that can't disappear. Your client's marriage to... He glanced at his notes with theatrical disgust. A Nigerian refugee he met 3 weeks ago in a women's shelter. A woman with multiple rejected asylum claims, no legal status until this convenient marriage, and a daughter from an unknown father. This is who you've chosen to mother your child? The courtroom murmured. Taesung's hand curled into a fist under the table, but before he could respond, Amara stood. May I address the court? Her voice cut through the noise, clear and powerful. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, nodded slowly. You may. Amara moved to the witness stand with the same confidence she'd shown in the sanctuary, both babies in their carriers against her chest. My name is Amara Okafor Jeon, she began, her accented Korean perfect in its clarity. I'm a registered nurse with specializations in maternal health and infant care. I'm currently enrolled in Seoul National University's Advanced Pediatric Program, and yes, I married Jeon Taesong 3 weeks after meeting him. The courtroom leaned forward. You want to know why? I'll tell you, because I watched a man with unlimited resources, with access to the best specialists in the world, completely shatter when he couldn't save his daughter. Because I saw someone who could have abandoned a child he didn't plan for, didn't want, but instead fought for her with everything he had. She adjusted Mina's carrier, and the baby's face was visible, healthy, peaceful, thriving. When I met Mina Jeon, she was failing to thrive. Medical term meaning she was slowly dying despite adequate nutrition and medical care. She'd been through 6 nannies, 8 formula changes, countless specialist consultations. She was dehydrated, underweight, and in constant distress. Amara pulled out a folder, handing it to the judge. These are her medical records. 4 months ago, she was in the 3rd percentile for weight, clinical failure to thrive. Today, 3 weeks after coming under my care, she's in the 55th percentile. Normal development, normal weight gain, no signs of distress. The courtroom was silent. The Lim family wants to claim Jeon Taesung is an unfit father because of his profession. Fine, let's talk about fitness. How many hours has the Lim family spent with Mina? How many nighttime feedings have they done? Do they know she's sensitive to dairy? That she prefers being held on the left side? That she responds to Igbo lullabies better than Korean ones? Amara's eyes blazed as she looked at Somin's family. You want her because she's leveraged in a territorial dispute. I know it. You know it. This court knows it. You're using a motherless infant as a chess piece. Ms. Jeon, the Lim lawyer tried to interrupt. Mrs. Jeon? Amara corrected sharply. And I'm not finished. You want to question my fitness? Fine. I've delivered over 200 babies in refugee camps with limited resources. I've kept infants alive during bombings, famines, disease outbreaks. I've rebuilt my life 3 times in 3 different countries. I am a survivor who understands what children need because I've fought to provide it under impossible circumstances. She turned to address the entire courtroom. Yes, I'm a refugee. Yes, I had a rejected asylum claim. Yes, I have a daughter from a man who abandoned us. None of that makes me unfit. It makes me strong. It makes me capable. And it makes me exactly what Mina needs. Someone who understands that love isn't about money or status. It's about showing up, staying present, and fighting for someone even when it's hard. Amara sat back down, and the courtroom remained silent for a long moment. The judge looked at the medical records, at Mina sleeping peacefully in Amara's carrier, at Tai-sung's face, usually so cold and controlled, now openly emotional. "I'll make my ruling after reviewing all materials," the judge finally said. "But Mrs. John," she looked at Amara directly, "thank you for your candor. This court is adjourned." Outside the courtroom, Tai-sung pulled Amara aside, his hands framing her face before he remembered and stopped himself. "That was necessary," she finished, her voice shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. "They were going to tear us apart. You didn't have to defend me. I wasn't defending you. I was defending Mina. And..." She paused, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. "Maybe I was defending us. Whatever this is." Taesung's thumb brushed her cheek before he could stop himself. "Amara..." His phone rang. Haiwon's name flashed on the screen. "Boss, we have a problem. Sung-ho just left your penthouse with 3 men. I think he's making a move." Taesung's blood went cold. "When?" 10 minutes ago. I tried to stop them, but..." He didn't hear the rest. He was already running, Amara right behind him, both of them sprinting toward the parking garage. "What's happening?" Amara demanded. "My second-in-command is staging a coup, and he's going after what I care about most." "Mina's at the penthouse with the nanny." "I know. Drive faster." They made it to the penthouse in 8 minutes, a drive that should have taken 20. Tai-sung's building had emergency protocols, security systems that could lock down the entire structure. But when they burst through the penthouse door, it was already too late. The main room was destroyed, furniture overturned, blood on the marble floor. The nanny is unconscious but alive in the corner, and Seung-ho standing in the center holding a gun, but not pointing it at them, pointing it at the nursery door. "Ah, Tai-sung," Seung-ho smiled cold and cruel. "So glad you could make it. We need to have a conversation about leadership and priorities." "Where's my daughter?" Tai-sung's voice was deadly quiet. "Nursery. Completely unharmed. For now." Seung-ho's smile widened. "But that can change very quickly depending on how this conversation goes." Amara stepped forward and Tai-sung grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "This is between me and him," Tai-sung said. "Wrong," Seung-ho corrected. "This is about her. About how the great John Tai-sung has gone soft. How he's prioritizing a bastard child and a foreign whore over the empire we built together." "Choose your next words very carefully," Tai-sung warned, his voice like ice. "Or what? You'll kill me? You've gone soft, Tai-sung. The old you would have eliminated the child the moment she became a liability, would have used the woman and discarded her. But you've actually caught feelings." Seung-ho laughed. "It's pathetic. If you hurt my daughter, I'll make you beg for death for weeks before I grant it." "I'm not going to hurt your daughter." Seung-ho's expression shifted, became calculating. "I'm going to give you a choice. The empire or the family. Your position or your daughter. You can't have both. So choose." The room went silent. Tai-sung looked at the nursery door, behind which his daughter slept. Then at Amara, standing beside him radiating fierce protective energy. Then at Seung-ho, representing everything he'd built, everything he'd been. And he made his choice. "I choose family." Seung-ho's eyes widened. "What? You heard me." "I chose my daughter, my wife, my family. You want the empire? Take it, I'm done." "You're bluffing." "I've never been more serious in my life." Tai-sung stepped forward, placing himself between Seung-ho's gun and the nursery. "You think the empire made me strong. It made me feel empty, hollow. A machine that processed violence and called it power. But her," he gestured to the nursery, "she made me human again. So take the territories, take the money, take everything. But you touch my family, and I'll show you what a man with nothing left to lose can do." For a moment, Seung-ho looked uncertain. Then Amara moved. She didn't run toward the nursery. She walked towards Seung-ho with zero fear, her eyes locked on him. "You think you're dangerous?" she said quietly. You're not. You're just a small man with a gun trying to feel powerful. I've faced real danger, warlords who slaughtered entire villages, traffickers who sold children, corrupt officials who disappeared women for sport. You? She smiled, cold and beautiful. You're nothing compared to what I've survived. Mrs. John... Seung-ho's gun wavered. That's right, Mrs. John. Which means I'm family. Which means you just made a very stupid mistake. She stepped closer, close enough that the gun was touching her chest. So, here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down that weapon. You're going to leave this penthouse. And you're going to pray we never see each other again. Because if you don't, her voice dropped to something terrifying, I will make sure every woman in this city knows what kind of man threatens babies. Every mother, every sister, her daughter. Your reputation won't survive what I'll do to it. Seung-ho stared at her, and something in his face shifted, recognition that he'd fundamentally miscalculated. This isn't over, he said, but he was already backing toward the door. Yes, Taesung said quietly. It is. Seung-ho left, taking his men with him, and the moment the door closed, Amara's composure shattered. She ran to the nursery, threw open the door, and found both babies sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the danger. She collapsed to her knees, pulling both infants into her arms, and began to cry, great, shaking sobs of relief and terror and rage. Taesung knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around all three of them. It's over, he whispered. I've got you. I've got all of you. It's over. But they both knew it wasn't. This was just the beginning. Besties, if your heart is racing right now, if you're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering what happens next, drop that like button right now. This story is about going places you can't even imagine. Comment below with your predictions. Will Taesung survive leaving the syndicate? Can Amara really protect this family? And most importantly, hit that subscribe button because the next chapter drops soon and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Until next time, stay dangerous, stay bold. And remember, real power isn't about control. It's about having something worth protecting.